NTL had an ultimate vision that they wanted to alleviate the problems of financial inclusion in Thailand. However, as they are facing external challenges, specifically ones from its competitors, the key question that must be addressed is how can NTL proceed further and secure its throne of being the market leader in the underbanked segment. Good morning, honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Piyapat Atanakut, and these are my colleagues Romyanet, Palipon, and Natapong, and together we're Aspire Consulting. Today, we are very excited to be here to present to you our recommendation on how NTL could proceed further, secure its market position through strategic evolution. So let's take a look at the executive summary. The objective is that they want to maintain its market leader position. However, from our analysis, we see that there are four main problems that is hindering their success. And that includes some employees are miscommunicating our values to our customers, and meaning our customers may go to our competitors instead. Second is in terms of customers having trouble distinguishing between our brands and Situational Power, as well as distinguish our values from indirect competitors such as loan sharks. Third, in terms of our branch reach, which is much less than our competitors, means that we are less convenient because of the less access point. And fourth, NTL offers less product compared to competitors. This means that they can only cover a smaller target customer group compared to our competitors. And so the way we believe we'll tackle these problems is through our recommendation NTL 2.0, which consists of strengthening internally, reaching externally, and targeting beyond. And through all of our strategies, we'll reach an impact of 1 billion Thai baht incremental revenue by 2021. But before we get into our recommendations, allow me to walk you through our situational analysis. NTL's direction consists mainly from three key stakeholders, which are the government, the Bank of Ayutthaya, which are the investors, as well as the customers. The governments are the ones that wants to reduce dependency of loan sharks in society, yet they have all of these regulations on financial institutions themselves. Moving on to the Bank of Ayutthaya, they want to make the best investment decisions. However, they do not want us to interfere with products and targets that they already made. Furthermore, in terms of customers, they want something that is transparent and clear and according to their needs. So our scope of direction must comply with the Ministry of Finance as well as Bank of Thailand and must create value for all of our key stakeholders. Moving on, when we take a look at the past operations, we see that Law has been pretty successful with its three key success factors of the decentralized branch-based approach, the 97% brand awareness, as well as the including our customers into the National Credit Bureau system. Yet when we compare the performance of us and our competitors, we see that our market share is actually decreasing. And when we take a look further into the year-on-year growth rate, we see that our competitors are doing much better. So the key question for today is what is happening with Law's performance and what can it do to achieve a better performance outcome? And so when we take a look at the issue number one in terms of employees, we see that many of our newer employees are miscommunicating to our customers. And the complication here is that as the customers are the ones that do not really understand our financial products, as well as the employees are the ones that are the face of the company, we must mitigate these risks by having a new HR structure that will address the complications here. Moving further, we see that in terms of the perception from the public, we could classify it as direct and indirect. In terms of direct, it is true we have a 97% brand awareness. However, 50% of the market are still confused whether this is Situational Power or Situational Law. Adding furthermore to the complication is that Situational Power has more branches, meaning more visibility, and so customers will be even more confused. The implication here is that we have three initiatives that we could take, and that is lawsuit, rebranding, or communicating more effectively. We see that Law is already doing the lawsuit. However, in terms of rebranding, we see that it is not a feasible option as we already have a 97% brand awareness, and rebranding would only benefit our competitors and not us. So we believe that communicating more effectively is the way to go. Moving forward in terms of indirect competitors, our customers are still going to those loan sharks. We believe that this is because they're still unaware of us, as well as they are still deceived by the attractive loan sharks that those loan sharks give. And so the implication here is that we must communicate our values more effectively, as well as not give the knowledge to the public about the loan sharks' disadvantages. Moving forward in terms of the branch reach itself, we see that we only have around 400 branches, which are far less than our competitors. And this means that customers have less access point and less convenience. And when we look even further in terms of how our branch-based model compared to indirect competitors of loan sharks, we see that loan sharks are more proactive, which means that they can reach their customers better than us. And so this implies that not only should NTL increase the amount of branches, but they should increase the amount of branches more proactively as well. And last but not least, in terms of the products itself, we see that currently we're trying to target grassroots customers. However, our price point is 30% higher than our competitors, and so as we're trying to target this group, we must be very concerned about our price. However, we wanted to initially recommend you to cut down your price, but we believe that that would only cause a price war, and so that would not create value for the company. But then when we look further into the product variety, we see that currently we focus too much on title loans, which is good because we're specialized in it. However, we still haven't really tackled the target market that does not have the non-collateral. And so this implies that we should look ahead into coming up with new products for that specific market instead. And now I'll pass it on to Ms. Romyanet to walk you through strategy 1 and 2 to tackle issue 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Mr. Piyapat. So after having walked through all the issues identified, please allow me to tackle the first issue on HR. Taking a look into the current HR structure, we identified 3 areas, starting with recruitment, compensation, and training. And exploring out the areas further, we find that the problem lies within training. Your question might be, why is that? Well, apparently, as of now, NTL has trainings and seminars explaining product offerings to their employees so they can better understand the products. However, they do not emphasize much on the other skill set that requiring for client-facing employees, such as how they appeal to customer. So this is one key area that NTL should improve upon. Taking a bigger step back, and taking a broader perspective of the branch-based model in general, we see that this model limits employees to be reactive, meaning that they do not reach out to customer, but need to wait for customers to come to them. And we feel like this leads to 2 main flaws. One is that they will not be able to satisfy one of the main value proposition of the main target market, which is convenience, since some of them live in hard-to-reach area. Second is that the main group of customers are merchants, meaning that the merchants are unwilling or unable to visit the physical store, unable to leave the stalls itself. As a result, we recommend that CISO evolve into a more proactive model. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to walk you through our first strategy of strengthen internally. With our recommendation would be for you to increase your training modules as well as to evolve and take a more proactive approach into reaching out into potential targets. So without further ado, the first phase of training. As of current, the training in this sense refers to training for local branch employees, which only limits to training regarding product knowledge. As a result, our recommendation would be to come up with a more intensive training, general training on other areas aside from product knowledge as well, because this would include screening, communicating, all the way to upselling. And all in all, this would help boost customer satisfaction, according to IBM research paper, to up to 90%. And how do we actually roll this out is that we will prioritize the region of training according to the region with highest number of branch first, and the training venue for each region would be of the largest province in that region. In alignment to the training we will offer is a more proactive approach that we encourage NTL to adopt, and this we therefore propose to you Ngan Tik Pi, or Money on Wings initiative, where basically the concept is to form a team of 3 well-trained sales representatives to go and advance and take charge of each province, trying to recruit as much potential customer as far as possible, yet at the same time offering the same services as of any physical branch. And the step-by-step execution here would of course be to externally recruit this new arm of Salesforce, as well as come up with intensive workshops on direct selling apart from the general training already provided. At the same time, after that, the pool will be divided into teams and sent out on vans into each of the provinces. And this, by the end of the first strategy, we promise you that NTL will have a more stronger sales force. However, this does not cover all the issues identified in the situational analysis. Referring back to the second issue about public's perception, look at the example here of Uncle Uwan, who reflects a good example of public misperception of NTL as well as microfinance products. Uncle Uwan is a 41-year-old market vendor who, like his colleague and market friend merchant friends have undergone loan borrowings from loan sharks in substantial amounts. We dug deeper into why they have not come to NTL instead of loan sharks and found 3 reasons. One is that they're not aware of the NTL brand. Second is that they cannot leave their physical store to come and visit the physical NTL branch. And third, they are so skeptical of microfinance products, especially one that lack the reassurance from the surrounding community. As a result, we propose to you our next strategy, reaching out externally with the ultimate objective to proactively recruit all potential customers out there. We divide this strategy into 3 phases: communicate, reach, as well as relationship management. Starting with communicate, of course, the channel to communicate here is undoubtedly TV, with penetration rate of over 90%, coupled with the fact that these potential targets tend to incorporate TV into their working behavior, ensuring that the message of NTL being the true financial advisor to reach out directly to them. The impact of this is that it would not only raise brand awareness, but it will also allow NTL to deliver effectively their value to their clients and would help prep them for the next initiative of Nantikpi. And this is the next initiative where the actual reaching out will occur. These Nantikpi teams will be sent out to each province and be asked to penetrate all the areas to recruit as much consumers as possible. And last but not least, back to the insight on Uncle Owen's case study, he and many of his friends share the same value of valuing local preferences as well as success case. This means that what NTL should do next is to come up with an ambassador program for each community, meaning that one of the best customers who make regular loan payments would be set up as an ambassador, so this would act as a touch point and also reflect a successful case for NTL. And what these ambassadors would get in return are 3 things as follows. First, they would get higher access to huger sums of loans. They would also get stores renovation, and last but not least, they would get percentage of referral. And without further ado, please allow me to pass on to my colleague to walk you through the final strategy.
Thank you, Ms. Renee. So, after understanding how Nantikpi can better reach their customers, they need to take a step back if they want to target beyond. They need to look at their current product lines, which in their main product lines there are 3. There are title loans, microcredits, and insurance. Out of these 3, they mainly focus on title loans, understandably because it bears the least risk out of all other product offerings due to the collateral of vehicles. Now, this is causing them to miss out on the opportunity of a customer segment who do not own collateral. To capture this market, Nantikpi needs to come up with a product offering that meets their needs of easier financing while at the same time minimizing the risk that they have to bear. We found that to target beyond, they need to make use of microfinance, which is one of the products category that will able to satisfy both the needs of the customers and Nantikpi. So we came up with a short list of 5 different microfinance products. Out of these 5, our research shows that micro-leasing is the most feasible product that they should go with due to 3 main reasons. Micro-leasing is not limited by the regulations of Bank of Thailand or the other ministries. So this is one of the ways that micro-leasing is easier to implement than other product offerings. Second, it fits the customer needs because it's easier for Nantikpi to ensure that their customers will pay back the installment payments compared to the other product offerings that do not have collateral. For the third one, Nantikpi will be able to reduce the amount of risk that they have to bear, as mentioned, because there will be collateral in the form of assets. I'll be happy to walk you through in the Q&A in detail more how the other product offerings pale in comparison to micro-leasing. So who exactly will be making use of micro-leasing? Currently, there are 2 key statistics that we need to understand provided by the Ministry of Industry and Deloitte. These papers have shown that there are about 50,000 new micro and small enterprises popping up each and every year. And the second one is that about 1.5 million of these enterprises are currently needing financial services, but they cannot get access to them because they either lack the financial records such as savings and credit history or the appropriate collateral to qualify for typical loans such as title loans. So this is the implication here is that we see a great opportunity for Ngatitla to come and bring their micro leasing product to these customers to ensure that they have easier financing. When we take a closer look at who these customers are, this can typically range from small agricultural producers to micro street stall vendors who often have to purchase assets to be able to generate revenue for their businesses. So in a sense, what we need to do is make sure that they're able to afford these assets. Specifically, an example for farmers. Farmers may need to purchase equipment or accessories to be able to obtain, make sure that they can grow their crops. This typically ranges from about 50,000 to 100,000 baht. The investment may not be feasible for them due to the cash flow cycle that they have to go through on an annual basis. So what we plan to do is purchase the assets in their stead, lease it to them for an installment based on maybe monthly or annual rates, depending on the customer's need, and make sure we align as best as possible with their cash flow cycle. Another example of street vendors could be someone who wants to own a street stall brand such as Bumi Chai Si or Gayang Hadao. The thing is that they need to purchase licensing and the equipment, like such as the stall itself, to be able to begin their business. So what we can do is basically purchase this in their stead, and at the same time, again, lease it out for them. Perhaps it could be a weekly or monthly basis, depending on how capable they are of generating the revenue. What this model basically aims to achieve is satisfying each stakeholders of Ngatitla's to be the most optimum as possible. For customers, they'll be able to ensure that they get to ease their financial burdens because they won't have to take on the full debt responsibilities immediately. For Ngatitla, they'll be able to capture a new market segment who do not own collateral, but at the same time will be able to fulfill their need of needing financial services. For the government, they'll be able to see greater economic output as more of the Thai population is financially included and capable, because more people will be able to run businesses and run their business more efficiently. Now let me pass it on to Mr. Pit Patipong to talk about the financial justifications.
Thank you, Mr. Narapong. So moving forward towards the implementation, we believe that next Monday morning, what NTL must be doing is that the firm needs to set up the right staff recruitment team, as well as conduct further study on micro leasing product. And at the end of this year, the firm must be continuously rolling out our strategy and continuously updates on it so it does not fall behind. And we do acknowledge that there are no strategies without flaw, and here are some of risks and mitigation that we have during the discussions. Now, let's see how all of these strategies would translate to financial results. Ladies and gentlemen, NTL main vision is to be number one financial institution serving the underbanked segment in Thailand. Our strategy will address such vision, and by 2021, we promise you that the firm's revenue will be growing at 23% CAGR compared to the case of 13% without any strategies implemented in the first place. Here, we do take a step back and understand what actually drives this growth. There are three key drivers here that need to be mentioned. Firstly, the forming of the new NTL and NTL Body initiative, contributing in an incremental amount of customer of over 60,000 customers in the last forecast year. Secondly, the newly added HR training program will also act as a performance bar by increasing the customer conversion rate. And lastly, the micro leasing program will also contribute 200 million Thai baht in the last forecast year to its revenue. Now, let's take a look at the cost side of the picture here. There are a few cost assumptions here that need to be mentioned. First is interest paid, second is marketing, third and fourth are related to NTL Body. But we believe that with the right cost optimization of HR strategy and NTL Body initiatives, we believe that the firm will be able to achieve a net income CAGR of 23.89%, compared to the case of only 14.34% without any strategy implemented. So in conclusion, today you've asked us how NTL will be able to remain strong and be relevant in Thai financial industry. The prongs of our strategy allow the firm to internalize optimally the operations and also reaches out to the target customer. So the firm will be able to achieve impressive financial result, and also to allow the firm to secure its market leading position in Thai's financial industry. With that being said, I open you to the floor of question and answer session. Thank you very much.
A question on microfinance. What do you think should be, how much of percentage do you think we should grow in, let's say, the next 2017 against the market of existing market percentage?
On microfinance,
Micro leasing, right?
the nano one.
Micro leasing. We believe that in the short run, it's actually the product offering is actually pretty new. We believe that we'll be growing again over the market rate by roughly 10%, but capturing a lower amount of market share in the first few phases. But we believe that this is a long-term prospect on how we go into the business model and capturing new product.
We have observed that the trends from micro-leasing is happening around the world, but it's still introduction phase into the microfinance because it is a new area of microfinance in which many of the banks around the world are still exploring yet. So that's why we have still come up with a conservative approach of a conservative prediction of a 10%, but we do believe that it will grow into the future once the market has understand what the product is about.
To add on the question about the micro-leasing, I think that most of the agricultural, the farmer usually have a loan with the agricultural bank, under the government bank, and their income pretty much based on the cycle of the crop as well as the climate change, which is the drought, the flood, which is as for my experience, I think this section has very high delinquency. I don't know if you have any observation on this.
So basically, we understand your concern because in the slides we showed that the card customer was a farmer, but our target customer in mind when we offered this solution was mostly to be street vendors. For example, people who wanted to start selling food on stalls and other things, because we found that it was very difficult for them to have financial services. And in essence, those are the customers that we are looking for and the one that we had in mind more so than the farmers.
In addition, I'd like to add on to that is that even though we're coming up with a new micro-leasing product, we still believe that it could be categorized down further in terms of how do we appeal to the agricultural farmers, as well as how do we appeal to those new vendors like what my colleague Nathapo has just mentioned.
One thing about that I worry about the new vendor is that they're like experience or have record of how well they operate their business. So keep in mind that would be a higher risk as well.
So we definitely took that into consideration because perhaps we didn't mention it, but before we approve the leasing, we do plan to leverage on the first two strategies where we will be sending out employees, and these employees will be gathering information on potential customers. So we will probably have a pretty good understanding of their background, their skill sets, whether they're able to actually generate revenue from the asset that we're leasing to them.
To give you a clearer picture of how that would work is that when, for example, screening of new vendors, right, we usually see that most people who want to pursue vendoring job is that they have worked in other vendors in the past. And so we see that in order for us to really do screening tests on whether they will have potential in this, in terms of operating that asset or not, we would likely contact the old vendors and let them refer to us of how capable of our vendors are.
About your strategies in being proactive, I see that you are very, very proactive, right? You train your existing employees and you have to hire new sales. Do you think that will hurt your position or your core values of, being like serving all kinds of needs to your customers? And how will that even scare off your customers? Like, okay, I'm not going into Ngandit Law because they're gonna sell me other products.
We did consider the direct selling method that will maybe harm our reputation. However, in terms of maybe my colleague might be miscommunicating, is that the relationship management part is the ones where we will use the ambassador. We're not really super trying to be direct selling, but what the relationship management is really do is that we will have a successful case in that area for all of our customers to look upon and then really see the success case of how Ngandit Law really helps them. And as for when we mention the word referral, we don't really mean that we want them to act as our sales agent, but for example, we picture the circumstances in which someone in the market does not really needs help in terms of getting the financial products. And so they would go to these ambassadors and maybe ask for help, and those ambassadors could contact us and say that, oh, I know someone who needs help, maybe do you want to come and take a look? And that would be more of a, not very proactive in terms of direct selling, but trying to appeal to the needs that without being super aggressive.
Moreover, to add on to this final phase of the strategy, we will undergo preliminary screening for ambassadors. So yes, of course, as I've mentioned in the strategy, that there would have to be good consumers who make religious installment payment for their loans. However, we do see that since this would also mean that we will see how the overall performance of the vendors to make sure that they're in a good performance, that they will see the referral benefit as just a small passive income.
And in addition to that, I would like to add that our first approach of communicating our brands, we're using the TV direct advertisement. We believe that advertisement can really scope the public's perception on, for example, the previous 2 slides? What we want to convey is that we are their true financial advisor, and we believe that if they are still scared to come to us, we will be there for them instead of being very aggressive, but just providing them with even knowledge or insights that we have in terms of how they deal with their financial needs.
In your presentation, I think you are targeting and beyond only in terms of microleasing, and have you studied on the growth in terms of insurance business or something like that? Why you didn't focus on that?
The reason why we didn't focus on insurance is we saw that there are many big insurance companies such as AIA, AIG that is targeting the mass. So they would cover the majority of the population already. And we see that there are other smaller insurance companies such as Viriya Prakanpai that is trying to target the lower target customers. And we see that even though the growth rate is still high, we see that it is not the field that we should be specializing in, but maybe in addition to that, just provide the product, the insurance product that they have been still going for. However, we don't want them to add additional insurance products because we believe that at the end, by providing insurance, we see that there is a public's perception towards insurance where they still believe that the money is being wasted on those insurance products instead.
Yeah, but actually, as you know, that the law already has the brokerage license from the life insurance, and we put a lot of investment in the infrastructure and develop the people. And as you will know that there's many pop and many the shop how they sell the insurance nationwide.
I may have miscommunicated. When we say we're going with a newer products, we mean that we are still going with the existing products, which is insurance, title loans, as well as micro loans. However, we're recommending something new to the company in order for them to appeal to another target group that they haven't been doing before.
If I may add on a little to that, what we found is that if we capture this new target customer with microleasing, it will be easier in the future for us to perhaps leverage on their acquisition as a customer. We can upsell them easier, like insurance products or our other microcredit products. In a sense, it's supposed to be complementary to our existing products, where it will help us make it seem as though we're really trying to help these customers, and they're more willing to continue to stay with us and use our other services as well.
Can you go back to the comparison why you choose the microleasing? Okay. So why you think food blending is not going to work in this market, as they are actually more on community based, and then probably it should work in a small area, and then why you think the microleasing is better than food blending?
So I'll take the first initial argument on that, is that we do see that comparing group lending to many other initiatives, it is still the direction to go as well. However, it is not as appealing as micro-leasing, because group lending means that you have to appeal to the mass market, and so in order for a group to occur, there must be integrity inside each group, and there must be trust in it. And so we believe that if we were to go to group lendings, we would probably target the wet market initiatives, the wet market merchants, or the employees inside a company as well. However, when we take a look at the wet market initiative, we see that group lending may actually cannibalize our existing products of the micro loans or micro financing, like micro leasing. And so in terms of the employees inside industrial estates or companies, we see that there is still a high rate of turnover where the employees will leave the company and go into something else. And so that is the reason why we still don't think that group lending is the way to go, as there has been a study on why is it successful in India, and we see that because the Indian people are more trustworthy of each other and they're more helping, but in terms of the Thai population, it is hard to say that we still lack the trust and integrity, and that is why it is not the direction that we should take yet.
About to communicate to market about the bank inclusion. Your education, it will be communicate more effectively. Could you get more color about it?
For example, this one, what we want to say is that not only do we want to raise the brand awareness of Situational law, but what we really keep in mind is that what our value proposition right now is mostly speed, which is the 30-minute loan. However, we see that in terms of financial products, the customers are the ones that they really need your trust in order for them to secure each contract. And so we believe that if we communicate the value proposition of being a true financial advisor, that would change the public's perception, and they may want to come with us more. And in terms of the we see that this is the case study of how Doicom and Advice already implemented their marketing scheme. Is that, for example, Doicom realized that their taste is worse off compared to Mali or Tipco, but they really want to emphasize to their end customers that they're the ones that care about the public more than their competitors, which probably adds sugar or taste in it. And we really believe that from our readings from brandbuffet.com, the public's perception towards the company changed a lot. And that is why we believe that this is the first initiative to go in order to, before we implement the other 2 and 3 steps.